So being the music geek that I am, when I'm listening to anything for the very first time and I hear something that I find rather interesting, I immediately start trolling the liner notes myself to find out what the heck that is.
You should leave little cookies in there for you next time.
Little solo performance.
We had, CHFI shout out in the...
yes, that would be cool. We would like that.
Yes.
On the album, when I was listening, and I'm not even going to begin to pronounce the name of the song, I'm going to leave that up to you, but Arturo Sandoval, one of the greatest jazz trumpeters
Un alma
ever.
Más is the name of that song.
How do you say it?
Un alma más.
Oh, it is fabulous. And then he pops in there, and you know, there's something about a trumpet that just kind of reaches right down into your soul.
It blows.
Yeah. Totally.
It does.
So whose decision was it to invite?
We had a wish list on that song. I wrote that song with a brilliant writer named Lester Mendez, and we had written this song, and it had started as a waltz, actually, that melody, and it could kind of, when it was a waltz, we thought, okay, well, what language should this be in? English, French? We didn't know. And then it like dawned on us that everything we were writing was waltzy. Like for whatever reason, it was just, I love writing waltzes. And so he goes, what if we straighten it out and kind of make it 4/4? And when we did, we immediately felt like, oh my God, this has got such a great Latin flair to it. So so we got the lyric to it and wound up being in Spanish, and then we had this instrumental kind of almost jazz fusion kind of thing that we wrote in the middle. And the first name that we thought, oh, you think Arturo would be willing to do this? And we got to go over to his house, and he's got his whole studio set up there and his trumpets, and he tried the it was one take. What you're hearing on this album is the very, 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 very first thing that he played. And he tried it under 3 or 4 times, but he just nailed it. His improvisational skills are so good, and his instincts are so solid that he just immediately knew what to play. And then he goes, all right, that's practice, let's go. But he couldn't beat it. It was perfect. And
it really is fabulous.
It was great. 15 minutes of playing and an hour of wine and cigars. It was great.
You're so honest.
It was awesome. It was a really wonderful hang when you meet a hero and you realize that they're just like as lovely a person as they are a player, you know. And it was a really kind of interesting day because, For Love and Country, the Arturo Sandoval story was a great film that they made for HBO about his story and coming over from Cuba. And Andy Garcia played him in the movie. So I ring the doorbell of Arturo's house, and Andy Garcia opens the door. And I just thought maybe they were a package deal. Like maybe it's just like, maybe it's like, how strange. Yes, it's like,
So he was just hanging out?
He was just hanging out. Yeah. Yes, they were actually writing a song together. They're still very, very good friends, and they were there, and it was a very fun day.
Well, it's a beautiful, beautiful song, and I just love it when he pops up on there. It's just a little jazz solo
great.
going on.
It really makes a little
difference.
Really
My dad,
I love you. Thank you. Was
that
you? Thank you. You're my boo-boo. You're my boo. So much love.
There is a lot of love, and we knew it was going to be coming. We did not ask them to leave the love at the door.
You did not ask them to throw snacks.
No, but that we did not put in we should have put that in the disclaimer. So Lara Pazzini also on the album?
Yes.
Now I think, was Lara Pazzini not on didn't you do that Hitman tribute to David Foster with all of the performers? And was she not there?
I don't think she was on the one that I was on. She might have done the next one. He did like 7 of them. Because he's got just that many songs. He's got so many songs to honor himself with. Yeah. And I think that, Laura and I worked together. They were, again, honoring David at Midem in Cannes. And I met Laura there maybe 13 years ago. She was one of the first kind of superstars that I ever met.
That would have been early.
And I was tiny. I was but a wee little lad.
Yes.
And she was so nice, and I've always been such a fan of her voice. And David and I actually always wanted to work with her, and it just never, again, the paths never crossed. So when we were kind of singing harmonies to this song, E Ti Prometterò, I heard her voice in my head, and we called her up, and she's about to have a baby, and she went into the studio anyway and sang it, and
how nice of her.
Took the time to do that for us, and as soon as she put her harmony on it, we felt it went from a good song to a great song.
Yeah, it's lovely.
So thank you.
You've also appeared on Tony Bennett's duets.
Yeah.
Man, that is so good. How about Tony?
The maestro.
Is he not like the best?
He's great.
He is. Yeah.
He's amazing. You look at him and you see not only just there's a pathos to just the way he lives his life and the kindness that he shows everybody. He's charitable. He's artistic. He's supportive of new artists and artists in any genre. We're all on that album. We don't, we can't hold a candle to what he does, but we're all there to support him and to sing that beautiful music with him. But the great thing about spending the time with him in the studio, other than just being able to sing with each other, was to see his discipline at, I mean, 80 years old now, I think he is, even maybe even older. I mean, he's still talks about vocal technique. He talks about, Robert Merrill and the great tenors and the great baritones. He talks about classical voice. He's trained and he studies it, and he's never stopped being a student, even with all his legendary success. And I think that you truly realize with the greats that have been around for as long as he has that, you want to get that far, the hard work doesn't end.
And he really makes it look easy.
And he makes it look effortless.
And you know that he's been working.
He makes it look effortless. That voice will always be that voice, and that was a great honor to work with him.
So who would you like to collaborate with? Who would you like to sing with?
There's still a wish list. I like recording with instruments. I like, I do, that's not funny, it's true. The good conversations I had with them, too. I would like to do another violin or cello duet. I'd love to work with someone like Itzhak Perlman or Yo-Yo Ma. I would love to, there's some great singers out there that I would love to work with. Florence Welch, she's a great vocalist. I think her voice is beautiful. Everybody wants to work with Adele. Add me to the list. I don't know, I've said this a lot, but I would love to get together with Bjork. Yeah, Bjork's somebody that I think is just awesome. She's out there. You play a lot of Bjork on CHFI, don't you?
Oh, nonstop. Up close and personal next.
Yes. Yes, yeah. Now, Bjork, the trees will grow hands. I'm a killer whale, I'm the hunter. What did you... You must have gone through a heartbreaking romance with that.
Jimmy Webb is on your new album.
Jimmy Webb.
Not as a singer, of course, but a song that Jimmy Webb wrote. And it is just another one of those beautiful songs that's been covered by a lot of people. And the opening melody on that song, Rob just kind of brings that all together and just kind of like, wow. And you're moved right into that one.
Yeah, thanks. Well, there's a great kind of old-fashioned piano part that we kind of kept from the 70s, from what he did there. And I like his version. I like Linda Ronstadt's version. I like Joe Cocker, Art Garfunkel. They've all done beautiful versions of it. And the first time I heard this song, I just felt it. I just felt like there was such a beautiful message, and the lyrics were very poetic and very haunting. And I love his music. I've tried to cover a few Jimmy Webb songs, and they're just all so great. I sat next to Jimmy Webb on like a flight of doom from LA to New York. I was sitting next to him. Oh, we almost went down. It was.
You became close then.
We became. It was like an almost famous moment where, where they're like yelling confessions at each other. We didn't even know each other, and we're just like, that was we hit like a huge storm vortex coming down to JFK, and the plane was just like cast away. It was just.
Was this the first time you had met him? You just
first time I'd met him.
Sitting beside him.
First time I'd met him, and I'd always heard of the kind of turbulence where a flight attendant will like hit the ceiling, and that was the only time I'd experienced it. No, seriously, she's holding onto the chair and her legs are hitting the ceiling. That's how fast we were dropping, and we survived.
That's scary.
And not to be totally morbid, but I actually signed my will the night before that flight. And I'm looking out the window just thinking, God has a cruel sense of humor. But at least I get to go down with one of my heroes. So, it's like, you gotta make lemonade out of death lemons.
Jimmy Webb has written songs, Glenn Campbell, Wichita Lineman, and just so many fabulous songs.
Classic. He's a genius.
He is. He's one of those great guys. We're up close and personal with Josh Groban. Gotta throw that in there periodically. Around the World Wide Web and broadcasting live on 98.1 CHFI.
Maybe a little too personal, I'm coming to think, perhaps. Maybe.
They are pretty. Did you know when you came here that they would be this close to you?
I've been closer.
Oh, okay. And you're not really afraid?
No, I'm not afraid.
Good.
I'm not afraid.
So, Performing Arts School, that's where you started.
Yes.
You went to Performing Arts School, acting career, and we've seen you on, okay, everybody, you can tell us all the shows that he's been on, because you know. Glee, Crazy Stupid Love. How much did we love Josh Groban in Crazy Stupid Love?
You love to hate me.
But how much did we hate your character?
Yes.
You were such a jerk.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You played it really well.
I appreciate that.
Because that seems to be so far from your real personality.
It is. I sat behind that guy in high school, and I studied him. And I drew from that. I actually...
What was his name?
What was his name? I don't know. Probably Troy or...
Yes. Blake.
Brooke. Yeah. So you know who I'm talking
about.
Yes,
I do.
Yes.
Yeah.
damn him.
Yeah.
And so I nailed that audition, and I was really happy about it at first. And then I was like, wait a minute, why did I get this on the first take? That's kind of bothered me that I play a jerk so well. And in this new movie that I'm coming out with, Coffee Town, I actually play another real jerk, a real kind of disgruntled. Right, at least I'm handsome. Thanks, Mom.
That was the comment from the room. At least you're handsome. So the name of that new movie that's coming out is Coffee Time. I think it's next month, is it not?
I don't know when that's coming out. It's an independent. It's an independent comedy, so it could be iPhone exclusive. I have no idea what that. I have no idea. It could just be telepathy. Who knows with that movie? But it was amazing to make and so funny and great cast, and a couple of production companies are now fighting over it, which is good. So I'm hoping in the next few months.
You obviously have we know you have a wonderful sense of humor, and you are really good at acting, and you're not afraid to kind of put yourself out there. Jimmy Kimmel, was it last week?
Yeah.
Come on! Josh Groban's sex pills.
Thank you for that.
Who would like to sign up for those? Just so funny, and I think one of the reasons that it's so funny.
I feel odd holding this microphone.
One of the reasons that it's particularly peculiar. We'll just move on.
I've sold 13 boxes of that already. Very, very happy customers. Look how happy I am on the box, for crying out loud.
I think everybody was just so shocked because it was kind of out of character somewhat.
Yes.
A little bit, but really, it's just all in fun.
It's all in good fun.
It was all in fun, and
My
you did a
feeling
wonderful
is,
job.
Well, thank you.
It was really funny.
Thank you, yes. No, I stay up all night watching those infomercials, and I find them funny when they're real, let alone when they're fake. So Jimmy Kimmel's great because, when no talk show host was even giving me a chance to do an interview, Jimmy Kimmel was giving me funny shtick to do. He was giving me funny stuff, and even back when I did the AMAs in like 2004, 2005, and he had me like buying brownies from Snoop Dogg backstage on camera, like he just had me always doing, he had me doing out of character, really kind of funny, take the wind out of people's sails kind of stuff, and he's right. Every time I see him, I give him a hug and just be like, hey, thanks for making me kind of cool, thanks for giving me funny stuff to do, And the Kanye West twins. So we have a really good time together, and I don't often feel comfortable doing that with people. It's got to be really smartly done. It's hard to be lowbrow and intelligent. It's actually harder, said than done.
Because there's a line and there's a line that you want to make sure you're not crossing, it's not crude and it's not.
Generally, my feeling is network television. If I can get away with it, I'm probably not crossing many boundaries that are too bad. But it is the kind of the twisted side of my brain, and it's obviously very separate from the music side. I obviously hold the music at a certain level, so much so that I actually kind of need the other side. Like the 9-year-old in me needs to climb out and play around every now and then. Otherwise, I'll just be a weeping, sobbing, candy-eating, big deal chocolate bar scarfing
troller of music at
internet trolling mess. So yeah.
So after we see the sex pills